Hey guys, welcome back to another Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Melissa.
And I'm Matt, her brother, her older brother.
Yeah, I feel like people are... Sorry, I'm eating a strawberry.
That's really
I'm starving
to do on a stream, Melissa.
On a stream. No, it's not live.
Yeah, but it's still...
It's pre-recorded.
No one wants to hear you with your gross mouth noises. Gross.
Well, too bad. You have to hear it. I had a long day at work. I barely ate anything, so I'm making up for it now.
Fair enough.
But anyway, I had a train of thought, and then you rudely interrupted me. Oh, no. It's that everybody thinks that we're not related. It's really, bizarre. We've reiterated this, 20 times, but, people will come on the channel and still have no idea that we're related.
I know. Some people see the resemblance, some people don't. I get that with all of our siblings. We have a lot of siblings, so it's people will be like, you look exactly alike, and then there's other people who are like, I don't see the resemblance at all. So it's just... in the eye of the beholder, I suppose.
Do you think we look alike? Because I don't really think so.
There's elements. Not a ton, really. It's just you have much lighter hair than me. We have the same jaw, I think. We both have underbites. I don't know. Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of resemblance.
Welcome to another Star Wars podcast where we break down our facial features.
Yeah, so let's talk about what the purpose of the show is. Today we're breaking down Andor. Episode 7. So
episode 7.
Stuff. Coming off of a very good episode of last week, which is going to be tough to beat, I think, for the whole season.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's a standout Star Wars episode, ever, especially standing on its own, without major characters in it. And the cinematics were just amazing. Very tense episode. So it's tough to follow that up, but I think with episode 7, they did a pretty good job. So I think maybe a good way to start off, we haven't done this the last couple episodes because we're bad hosts, but maybe we read a quick synopsis of the episode because we usually do that.
That's true. Sorry, guys. We've been out of it for a while. We had Kenobi, and then it was kind of a dead period, and I got a new job, and then Matt had to plan and get married.
Yeah, that. And then get a puppy. Which
can be very, very stressful. So sorry if we're off our game lately, but... We're getting there. We get Tales of the Jedi next week, so that'll be another thing that'll...
What day does that come out, by the way?
I think that's Wednesday. I think that's the same day as Andor.
Wow. A lot of stuff to record.
No, that's going to be 2 hours of recording, dude.
I know. It's a lot.
Because Tales of the Jedi is an hour and 5 minutes, an hour and 10 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, but we can piece those out. I think we should do separate reaction videos for all of them instead of one video, so just so we have more videos for people to watch, and it's more digestible that way because they're not super long episodes,
right? And then the reaction video would be a lot.
Yeah. All right, so synopsis for episode 7: the repercussions of the Aldani heist reach all the way to Coruscant while Cassian returns home. Short, sweet synopsis, and there's a lot more in between the lines there. So I think maybe we kick it off. What are your thoughts overall on the episode?
Oh my goodness. Overall, I enjoyed it. I liked some very specific elements within the episode. I'm just going to lay all my cards out on the table. I'm really struggling with this show. Yeah, I am. And I think a lot of it is I just cannot see this as Star Wars. And I think that's really taking the enjoyment out of it for me. And that's not to say that I think the show is bad, because I think the show is very well executed in terms of just TV. But tonally, it's not working for me as Star Wars shows have worked. That's more of my overall feeling on the show. In terms of this episode, I thought it was a nice continuation of last week. I thought that they stuck with the threads nicely. I liked some elements that they incorporated, like the flashback with Cassian's father and his murder, getting hanged in the town square. So that was pretty dark.
Yeah.
I like the Mon Mothma stuff. We finally get a mention of Palpatine. Finally. And they mention him about 3 or 4 times, which is good. I like to see that. I thought they had some interesting plot threads, but again, I don't think it's a bad TV show. I just don't know if it works for Star Wars for me. And I'm not sure that I would continue to watch this show if it didn't have the Star Wars name on it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
But that's not to say that I think the show is bad. I just want to clarify that.
Yeah. No, I don't 100% disagree with you. I'm on a little bit of a different page. I really like the tone of the show. I like how they're trying to separate it from everything else, because that's kind of what Rogue One was trying to do. It's trying to separate you from these characters that we're all attached to,
Sure.
with A New Hope and the original trilogy. I love the dark tone. I like this. I'm glad they're doing a slower paced Star Wars show. I think that's really important in order to continue to expand the universe and make it interesting. I kind of agree with you. Like, if I'm a outside third party and I'm not been into Star Wars before, I don't know that this is going to hook me in, especially with a really weak first, like, 2 episodes. I thought it didn't cement the motivations of the characters enough. And if I'm starting out with Star Wars for the first time, I don't know if this is going to keep me around. However, I am a Star Wars fan, so I do enjoy this stuff. Like, I can at least keep up and follow along with what's going on. I don't think that, like, with the exposition of the show, they explained enough. If I'm a third party who hasn't seen Star Wars, so I think it could be a little confusing. And that's kind of what I wanted the show to be, was to be an introduction for people who haven't watched Star Wars to start watching it. And I've heard similar stuff from other people, like people who are Star Wars fans, who are like, yeah, it's not, it's hard for me to get into, which is that's a fair criticism. I'm enjoying it so far. I think the first couple episodes were a little weaker than they could have been, or than they should have been. Whatever, they were just weak. And there's elements in this, but to say in this episode, I think there was a lot of stuff that I wish we would have seen in the first couple episodes, because there were a lot of good explanations, a lot of good reading between the lines in this episode. So my opinions on this episode was probably my second favorite of the season so far, because of the content of the dialogue that was in this episode. So, like you said, we get the Palpatine stuff. We get more politics with Mon Mothma in the Senate. We get more motivations for Discount Tobey Maguire, Cyril, which I'm still a little confused about, and we can talk about that more in depth later. I have some kind of a theory, and I know you do too. We get some stormtroopers in this. Great, that makes it feel really Star Wars. We get a Star Destroyer in it.
Clone troopers,
exactly. And, like, I wish that was stuff that happened at the beginning. In my opinion, this is stuff that should have been established in the beginning, because what I'm struggling with right now with the show is you need to explain why characters have their motivations. Why is this woman, Dedra, who
is that again?
The Imperial woman, the blonde Imperial woman. Why does she love the Empire so much? Like, we don't have that motivation. It's like, why she got into it, because she's clearly very, like, into her job. She loves her job. She wants to crush the rebellion. Why? What led her to that point? Same thing with, like, the rebels. No one explained why the rebels hate the Empire. It's just like, oh, the rebels hate the Empire, and they assume that you know why. But that's not a very smart thing to do, especially if you're trying to target a new audience. You need to establish those points early on in the show for people to understand who haven't watched it before. Mm-hmm. So, like, I think having that scene with, like, Cassian's stepfather, whatever, the guy, adopted father, whatever, the guy who took him in, that needs to be at the beginning, to be like, all right, this is why Cassian has a distaste. You need to have that scene with the troopers marching around at the beginning of the show to show people, hey, the Empire's kind of brutal. You also need to have them, like, ruling with an iron fist, so that we understand, okay, this is why the rebellion's happening. And then with the other characters on the Empire side of things, what makes them believe in the Empire? And that's something that's always interested me, is why are there so many people on the Empire side? We have all these conscripted stormtroopers who obviously buy into it. Why? I think that's an important thing to explain. And they've started to get into that, which I like, but I think it just needed to be fleshed out more at the beginning of the show as a whole. Now, separating the whole show from this singular episode, taking this episode as it stands on its own, I thought it was very good in doing some of those things. Also, like, again, the production value of this show is fantastic.
It's just stupid how good it is.
It's so good. The music is amazing. The CG with, like, that droid, the stuttering droid, Bevmo, what is it? I don't remember his name. Bemo? Yeah, something like that.
Wally.
Awesome. He's amazing. Like, the acting is really good. Marva. Also, here's the thing. There's so many characters. I'm having a tough time keeping up. But she's an excellent actor. Like, the dialogue is the best, maybe of all, like, Star Wars in terms of its realism and, like, the way that people talk. It lacks corniness that some other Star Wars contains, which some people argue that's just part of Star Wars, and that's a fine argument. But I really liked that development here, and now, like, we got some more motivations for people, and, like, with Cyril, what's going on there? Cassian's now trying to figure out what his next move is. We find out that Marva is, like, into the rebellion, and that's something that she's passionate about. We get what's the word I'm looking for? The rift
Shore
in between
troopers, the K2SO stuff.
well, yeah, the K2SO stuff, but also like the rift between the Imperial officers, and like they're starting to sniff out
Yeah.
the rebellion. We're seeing the beginning of it, and I'm like, all right, this is great development stuff. And I didn't really talk much in my reaction video, I don't think, but that was because I'm just paying attention, and that's like because I'm interested in the show. I'm interested in what's going on. You have to pay attention in order to understand this stuff, which to me is good. Like I feel more invested in the show now, coming out after last week, and it feels much more Star Warsy to me in this dark tone that's going on, which I do like. And I just want to continue to see more of that.
Sure. I think going back to your point on what they should have done earlier, I think had they incorporated those Star Warsy elements a little bit earlier in the show, for me personally, I think that would have created more of a hook. Because they bring in a lot of those past elements, like you have the shore troopers, I think they're called, the shore troopers. Mm-hmm. You have the shore troopers, you have I don't know what this brand of droid is called, someone's gonna get mad at for me later. But the K2SO droids, you have just the general Star Warsy vibe, and I feel like had that been more prevalent in the first 2 episodes, I think that would have captured my attention more. But I think because they've like
the KX security droids, right?
The really big,
the tall ones,
the tall, scary, intimidating ones. I think had those elements been incorporated earlier, it would have caught my attention faster. And I feel like it's just going like at such a casual pace that like now that we've gotten there, I don't really feel like the oh my gosh moment of it, or I don't feel like the oh my gosh effect of it. Apparently, Admiral Yularen from the Clone Wars and A New Hope was in this episode, and I didn't even recognize him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was the Imperial guy at the big Imperial meeting. That was Admiral Yularen from the Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know that was him, dude. Like, I watched the episode, and I was like, I feel like I should know.
Who that was. I was like, yeah, it's just another character.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought it was because I don't think they ever say his name. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they never say his name.
Well, he's well cast now that, it makes sense now.
It does. It makes sense. But I didn't know who that was.
I'm going to pull up a picture of him from A New Hope, just so people who are watching or whatever can see who we're talking about. But
like I didn't recognize that. Look at him.
That's him from A New Hope.
Dude aged pretty bad if you look at him in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, so here he is. There he is in here. Yep, so there he is. So this is the guy that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. But yeah, sorry, keep going. I just wanted to make sure people...
I have no idea what I was saying. The point being is I agree with you. I think there were a lot of great elements in this episode, the Star Warsy elements. It's just like, I don't know how to word this without it sounding super bad, but it's just like, I don't care like about a lot of these characters, and there's no hook in this show that's making me want to come back each week. It's like, yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm generally interested in like the heist and what's going on with Mon Mothma, but it's just like I feel like when I watch it, let me start over. When I watch Star Wars, you feel this element of fantasy that kind of takes you out of this world into this different picture. That's part of the reason why I like the prequels so much, is because that feels so far away and distant and unfamiliar, where I feel like I can dream in that environment, and it feels so creative and different from what we're used to in, like, say, a regular action show. I feel like this show is so grounded in reality in terms of like the environments and in terms of the dialogue and the things that some of the characters say. I mean, even the fact that they like cuss,
yeah,
you know, even the fact that they say like bastard shit, it takes me out of the Star Wars believability, because Star Wars has been so defined as this one tone that anything outside of that, I can't connect it to Star Wars. And so, like, I enjoyed this episode, but I think as far as a Star Wars show goes, as long as I take the Star Wars element out of it, it's more enjoyable as a show to me. But I just, like, I cannot watch this through a Star Wars lens. I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well. I
kind of get what you're saying, but do you think that's a bad thing? Like, I think it's kind of good to push the boundary of what people perceive as Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, kind of unlearning what we've learned about it. And it just presents it in a different way, which would open up more opportunities for more expansion in the future.
Right, but what it feels like to me is that Disney is throwing noodles at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like, it doesn't feel like so if you look at the last two Star Wars shows of like Kenobi and Boba Fett, there are good elements in there, but they don't stick the landing. And it's like they're like trying something new, but it almost feels like they're insecure about the way it could go. And then you end up with this mess of gobbledygook. And for me, Andor's starting to feel like they're throwing a noodle at the wall to see if it sticks.
Yeah, I mean, it feels cohesive to me though. Like a show as a whole, like with Book of Boba Fett, every episode's kind of all over the place. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, some of the episodes are kind of like all over the place. You know, I still like that show because I just love Obi-Wan and I love Star Wars. But this show feels cohesive from episode to episode. Like,
no, and that's not.
They're trying something new, and it still does feel Star Wars-esque to me for sure. It doesn't feel like the typical Star Wars of like the prequels and stuff, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
And I do want to clarify, that's not to say I think the show is bad. I think the show works, but contextually within the Star Wars universe, I'm not there, and I'm perfectly okay with that. And there are people out there that absolutely love it, and more power to you. I'm happy you're enjoying it, but it's difficult for me to get through some of these episodes because I'm like, it's not there. Like, I just don't feel the way I like to feel when I watch Star Wars.
No, hey, that's totally fair to say.
But going back to the episode, because we are getting off track. So how about the Cyril storyline? Like, where do you stand on that? I have two questions for you.
To me, sorry, go ahead. Finish your question.
Two questions. One, where do you stand on that? Two, what do you think of the fact that we now have space ties in Star Wars?
Oh yeah, I guess I didn't know. It's like space cubicles.
Because in my reaction video, when I post, you guys will see it. I'm like, oh, Matt's gonna love this with the space ties.
I didn't call that out specifically. I more noticed the space cubicles that they all had. But with the Cyril thing, it's moving way too slow.
Yeah,
like I don't care enough about this character for it to move that slow. Like, what's the end goal here? Just tell us what he's doing. Like, it's not that big of a deal. And they focus. He was in obviously the first 3 episodes. The last 3 episodes, it's just been like slowly moving along, and he wasn't even in the last episode. So I'm just like, okay, just show just complete this a little bit more. But it is interesting. So the Cyril storyline.
He's still sitting at his table eating breakfast.
Yeah, no, he just continues to eat space Cocoa Puff. So he's finally like the story's developing more. I think it has potential to be an interesting like subplot, but I'm a little confused on it. I think I have a better idea of where it's going now. Initially, what I was thinking is maybe like because some of the dialogue he said, he's like, I believe law and order need to be upheld, which is telling me like, all right, if that character cares about law and order, he's probably more on the Empire side.
Yeah.
So is this going to be like a storyline of how he rises his ranks through the Empire potentially? And then becomes like a formidable force against the rebels. Like
he's not intimidating enough.
No, he's not at all. But like maybe I'm thinking maybe that's where it's going.
It could be. That's a cool theory. I mean, it'd be awesome to see someone start from the bottom and then work their way up through the ranks. Because I don't know if we've actually seen that story from the bad guy's perspective anyway.
Right. And like him and Cassian already kind of have like a rivalry. Not really. It's more on Cyril's side than it is on Cassian's side.
Right.
But like that's kind of what they established with the show at the beginning. At least that's how it comes off. So that's why my brain initially goes to, all right, he'll rise up through the ranks just like Cassian rises up through the ranks of the rebellion. And then
like a parallel.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like a rivalry that they have. But
that'd be cool.
You said you thought something different. You said maybe he'll join the rebellion.
I don't know. And in fact, I would prefer what you just said. That would be very, very cool if you're contrasting these two characters, one that's trying to rise through the ranks of the Empire, and then the other one who's rising through the ranks of the Rebellion, and then you pit them against each other. Yeah. That, to me, is an infinitely more interesting story than having Cyril just play the classic Star Wars part and then end up joining the Rebellion, because that is predictable and, quite frankly, overabused. Yeah. So, it could go one of two ways. I hope it goes your way, but I could also see him finding out about Cassian being in jail and then wanting his revenge on him and then extracting him, and then somewhere something gets screwed up and then they have to be buddies. I don't know. They could do a number of things, but for the sake of the story, I think it would be most interesting if they went your route. But as far as he as a character goes, I agree with you. It's too slow.
Yeah.
The biggest beef I have with this show right now is you guys need to pick a cast of 4 or 5 at most, and just focus, like hyper focus in on them and really get us to feel like their depth and frustrations and why they're doing what they're doing. And I haven't really seen that with any
Yeah.
of the characters. And
There's
I feel
also
like
just
he's
so
just getting
many.
lost.
There's so many characters too. Like I found myself in this episode, they mentioned a character's name, and I'm trying to remember who it is. So it's like that's also kind of a pain point for me, is like remembering who they're talking about every time, because there's so many people to remember and like remember what they're doing.
Now, Marva's a good character.
Marva's a great character. She's really interesting to me. Luthen, obviously, super interesting. I want more Luthen. He's great. Cassian's interesting, but I'm not 100% there on him yet. He's not like really a super strong protagonist right now,
No.
in my opinion. And
Mon Mothma is interesting, but they need to do more with her.
They need to do more. They're getting more into that with this episode. And then the head of the Empire is an interesting character.
The British old guy, the balding guy.
Yeah,
I really like him.
Actor. I really like his character. He's interesting to me. Cyril's not that interesting to me. The chick, I forget her name.
The blonde one,
Yeah.
Deidre.
No, not her. Not the one for the rebellion.
Vel.
I'm not super interested in her. So I think they just need to maybe focus on some of these other character development more. But and also the world building aspect of it. Like, show us why things are the way that they are. You know, we're talking about spies in the Senate now. This is interesting. Mon Mothma's making a friend with another senator, and she's going to try to plot with him. You know.
Oh,
She's
by the way,
nervous.
they were into each other at one point, for sure.
Yeah, but who is that actor, by the way? I like that guy. I forget what his name is, but
I
think
don't
he's
know
in-
the
he's-
actor's name,
Yeah.
but their scenes together, that scene, I liked that scene a lot.
Yeah,
But their scenes together, I kept saying, like, they were together at one point. Like, this is...
they were
this-
like childhood friends or something. Is what?
They were childhood friends, and they were roommates. They were roommates.
And they were roommates.
Were they not? They were totally.
Yeah, probably.
Sorry, I had to throw that reference in there.
Ben Miles. Let me look it up because
Ben Miles. I don't know that actor's name.
I like this actor. He's in The Crown. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
He's in The Crown. This guy, so he's good. I initially thought, I was like, is it House of Cards? It's something, but he plays like the Queen's secretary or something, or someone like
He's
that. But
assistant
he's
to
good
the
at-
Queen.
He's good at political roles like this, so I think that's a really good casting on their part. Also, Mon Mothma hiding stuff from her husband, shady.
Well, he's also a piece of trash.
He has a cool like ponytail thing though.
That doesn't matter. And also, her daughter's super obnoxious.
Yeah. Oh, is this the party that did they finally have the party that?
I don't know,
Is
dude.
this what
I
the
don't
party
know
was?
if
Yeah.
this is the party. That's
think it
exactly what I was thinking during the episode too. I'm like, is this
Yeah.
the already happened party that apparently is happening again? I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. I love her apartment too. Mon Mothma's got style, dude. Her apartment
And
so
her
cool.
outfits are
Yeah.
fire. They're so good. Whoever did the costume design, I'll just give them
Yeah.
props there. Like,
Again, that's
fabulous.
the standout of the show to me so far. Is the cinematography, the set design, like just the production value is amazing. That to me is like one of the biggest standouts of this show so far.
It's definitely the standout in the midst of other Star Wars shows.
Oh yeah, like I just wish we would have had the same kind of quality and like attention to detail in Kenobi, because I don't feel like we really got that as much in Kenobi. Like, it just feels different the way this world is set up. And again, that's kind of my point as to why it does feel more like it does feel Star Warsy to me. And it's getting more in that realm. You know, the more stormtroopers and TIE fighters and stuff we see, and mentioning of the Emperor, like, okay, great, let's keep going down that path and exploring these other interesting plot points.
So one interesting plot point of this episode is that Cassian runs off with the money, tries to go back and get Bix and Marva, and they're like, no, screw you, leave.
Yeah.
And Cassian, weirdly enough, doesn't tell Marva that he was part of the attack
Yeah.
on Eldani, which was interesting to me. And she was like, I'm just so excited about the rebellion. So I thought it was interesting that he didn't tell her.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so he's deciding to withhold this information. And she's like, nope, I'm going to stay here. I'm going to fight. And Bix essentially was like, screw you.
Yeah.
Right? Where she comes out and he's like, you should come with me. And she was like, no, leave. And that scene took forever, by the way. That was a really, really long scene. But essentially, he's like, no, leave, by the two of them. He leaves, and then he goes to the space Mediterranean,
Yeah.
I think. And
Yeah. Space Dubai or something.
yeah, Space Dubai or something. He goes there and he gets arrested
He sure does.
because the Empire is cracking down now
Yeah.
on security because of what happened at Aldhani. And fun fact, I don't know if you saw this, I didn't know this at the time, but Sam Witwer, who plays Darth Maul, was that shore trooper who was
Oh, that was
confronting.
him?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's
he
cool.
tweeted the line after the episode aired, and I was like, I would have had no idea because I didn't recognize his voice. But then again, he is a voice actor, so
Yeah,
that was
that's cool.
that was a
For
fun
him.
little tidbit.
Yeah.
So Cassian gets arrested and he is sentenced to 6 years in prison, where it was prior 6 months. But the Empire was super upset about what happened on Eldani, so they're cracking down and he's going back to jail.
Yes. So this is a good element because it also, this is what I wanted to see in the first couple episodes, show the brutality of the Empire.
Yep.
Like, they're like, it's not fair. You can't fail this. You're going to jail. That's it. That's that, you know? And then that makes the viewers mad. They're like, hey, that's not fair, right? There should be someone going against the Empire. So I'm glad we got that element. I mean, obviously he's going to get broken out or something. I'm guessing Luthen will have something to do with that, and that's how they will reconnect. Could be wrong.
It's going to be Luthen or Cyril or any one of these 80 million characters. He's got a lot of options for people to bring him out.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters.
Drop a comment and let us know who's going to break Cassian out.
Yeah. Well, we know who it's not going to be. It's not going to be the guy he shot in the face last episode. Oh, I forget his name. Kieran, Kelso, I forget.
Kelso. I want to go with Kelso.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, look, I don't think there's really much more to say from my end. I really like this episode. I hope this politics stuff continues. Like, that is interesting to me. I like TV shows like that, like House of Cards-esque or like some Game of Thrones political stuff. Like, I'm a fan of that. If we can do that with Star Wars, great. It's a little bit trickier to figure out. And we're still in the first season of the show, by the way. So I want to put a big disclaimer on that with this anyways. Like, first seasons of any TV show are hard to nail. It's hard to do unless you're True Detective season 1, which is like the best season of television of all time, in my opinion.
I haven't seen it.
But it's great. Yeah, overall, this is probably my second favorite just because of the pieces of information, the nuggets we get. We get Palpatine mentioned. That's all I want. I want more of the Senate stuff and like how the galaxy is in general, the brutal rule of the Empire, and just more character development is really what I want to see moving forward. More motivations for why people are the way that they are and cement them as really likable characters so we can like look forward to tuning in every week and seeing what's going to happen.
Right.
So in order to do that, you need to give more motivation, give more context, and what's the last thing? I just lost my train of thought. I'm so stupid. More motivation, more context. Oh, and more like Star Wars-y elements. That was the other thing I was going to say. That's what I think is going to be the key for the rest of these episodes. Is like, cool, Star Destroyers now. We've seen TIE Fighters. We've had mentions of the Emperor, and we've seen Stormtroopers and Shore Troopers and the KX units. Great. Let's keep that going and let's develop this Empire world more because that's a cool thing to explore. Is what is a galactic empire? What do they do? You know, how does your average person feel about it? Let's talk to the people who are Empire like apologists, people who think that the Empire did nothing wrong. So that's kind of what I want to see. But I'm definitely more interested and invested in the show after this week. I'm interested to see what this next arc kind of looks like. And I'm happy with it. I think overall this is probably in the 7s for me for this episode. Maybe like a 7.4, 7.5. Pretty solid rating.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
But that's how I'm feeling. I'm looking forward to next week. The show as a whole, it's not a standout show as it sits alone. And I'm just thinking of that as like, if I wasn't a Star Wars fan, would this show be like, oh my gosh, it's objectively great television? I don't know that I would think that, but it is interesting television for sure. Like, it's an interesting world they're building. I like the cinematography. I like the darker tone of it. I think Star Wars needs that. I'd like to see more brutality as we go.
Now, when you say darker, I do want to ask you about this. When you say darker, are you talking about in terms of violence? Or are you talking about in the terms of like the language or showcase of like
all of it?
Well, okay, so like
even the cinematography, like the filters they use on the cameras, it's darker. It's like.
But when you primarily say that, are you referring to just like how people get killed? Because when people say darker or more mature, they usually refer to like sex or how many people get stabbed or killed or how graphic something is. And so it's like, do you Like where are
Yeah,
you on
even
that
just I don't
range?
need it doesn't just necessarily be super violent. I would like a little bit more violence and brutality, like showing Cassian's dad like hanging. Okay, more of that, please. You know what I mean? Like
More
that's how.
consequential stuff?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, like just like the brutality of it. Like show us like why the Empire is hated, and that's the reason why you do this. Like just bring darker elements into the show. Like dark themes is what is really what I'm talking about here.
So kind of like Vader going through the town and massacring
Yes.
the child in front of the father
Yes,
with Kenobi.
more of that. I think that's kind of what Star Wars needs, and
Do you think Revenge of the Sith was on that level?
yeah, 100%. That's why it's one of my favorite Star. It's probably my favorite Star Wars movie, and that's why primarily. It's because it is really dark, and just the theme of it overall. It's a hero's fall. You know, it's a dark theme, and he kills kids in it. You're like, that's dark. So more stuff like that is like, and I'm not saying it's like super lacking in that area. I just think it needs a little bit more to have the effect that it looks like, at least how I'm perceiving it. It looks like that's the effect they're kind of trying to have here. So
Do you
like, yeah,
think do you think
consequential,
Rogue
brutal.
do you think Rogue One did that well for
Yeah.
you? You do? Okay.
I think so. To a degree, Rogue One was faster paced. Obviously, it's a movie.
I think it accomplished things faster because they had a limited amount of time.
Yeah, and it also just establishes it's Star Wars immediately. I think the first scene is when Andor's like in an alleyway and there's like stormtroopers running around, right? And they're talking.
Yeah, and he shoots a guy in the face.
Yeah, exactly. And with this one, it's like we opened up with this security firm. It's like, I don't get that. That doesn't feel Star Wars to me. Why are we not just having stormtroopers? I mean, I get why they did it. It's kind of to like establish that the Empire had been loose and lax before, and now they're starting to crack down because this is like what 6 BBY or something like that.
Yeah, it's like 5 years before New Hope.
Yeah, so I understand why they did it. I just think they could have done it in a better way, establishing that Star Warsy element. But yeah, I mean. Look,
Yeah.
I'm also not perfect at like I've never written a TV show, so what do I know? I'm just saying. As a
but
viewer,
that doesn't discredit you from being able to comment on something and say, hey, you know what, that's weird.
As a viewer, I would just like this is what I would like to see. Keep developing these characters, dialogue, darkness, political aspects, and good character dynamics.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about the tone because that's where I'm conflicting mostly. You get used to Star Wars having one tone, and then when it comes in and suddenly the characters are saying stuff like shit, bastard, I don't know, like regular things or the scenery, for example, like the space beach or the space office, like that stuff still feels very, very grounded in reality to me. Like it feels less fantastical and more like, oh, I would see this every day on the street. And that's not to say that like having things in TV shows be a reflection of our own cultures and what we do in everyday life is bad. It's just, for me, I feel like we have two conflicting tones that are confusing me in terms of like how I'm perceiving the show. And again, I want to clarify, I don't think the show is bad. So don't come at me in the comments. I don't think Andor is a bad show. I'm just struggling with it contextually within the Star Wars universe. And I'm okay with that. It's just, I don't know how much I'm going to watch this show when it's done. Now, with that being said, we do get Tales of the Jedi next week, and that is coming from Dave Filoni, who I think just absolutely nails the Star Wars vibe that I tend to gravitate towards. So I'm dead excited for that. And it airs on Wednesday, so I'll probably watch it before I watch Andor. So...
Well, I think that's well said. Everyone who's watching, let us know what you think in the comments on our community page. Maybe there's a couple comments actually we'll get to before we get going, just about how people felt about the show.
And we are getting better at this, guys.
Yes. So we asked, what did you guys think about episode 7? Comments, anything like that. Dr. Keps says, I'm really interested in the future of Miro. Now that's the proper way to build up an antagonist. She will play a big part in hunting the rebellion moving forward. Which one's Miro?
That's the blonde one, right?
No, I thought that was Daedra. Oh yeah, Daedra Miro. Okay, that's her name. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. I think she's an interesting character, and I agree. I think she will be a big part. But again, I need more character development here. Why does she love the Empire so much? Like you can't just we can't just make the assumption that she just loves it because that's the order of things. It's like,
Mhm.
no, she was alive when the Empire was like formed. Like, what made her buy into that versus growing up with a little bit of the Republic, you know?
Right. I think Rebels did that really, really well, giving these characters background so you understand where they're coming from and like why they're a part of the group and you understand their motivations. And also they could do this in season 2. I just feel like they're taking forever to develop it. I don't
think
feel
they
like it should
purposely
take
paced it
this
slow.
long.
I think they purposely paced it really slow to leave room for a season 2. That's my analysis.
Well, season 2 is already happening.
I know, but I think that's like they wanted to have enough content to drag it out to a season 2, right? To A, make money, but B, they don't have that much time in between now and when Rogue One happens, you know?
Well, they also should have just done this as a one season show. I feel like it would have been a lot tighter and a lot cleaner, you know, in terms of
but then
how
it puts more
efficient
pressure
they
on
are.
the writers. Then it puts more pressure on the writers to get it exactly right, which is tough to do with a one season show. Look what happened with Kenobi. That's a one season show.
But that was 6 episodes.
Exactly. And was that the right decision? No. I think the writers were they had to throw something together. They worked in. They put a box around what they were doing.
I think
that's kinda what
Kenobi
you
could
do
have
when you-
worked. I think Kenobi could have worked if it was 12 episodes. You know, I
Yeah.
think it could have been one season with 12 episodes. I
Yeah,
think
that's true.
Andor, I think they should have reversed it. I think Andor should have been 6 episodes, like 6 1-hour episodes.
Yeah.
And then Kenobi should have been 12.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I don't
Right.
feel like, and it is possible to do that because I recently finished, well, I didn't finish. I'm finishing Stranger Things. But one thing I really like about the show is that in season 1 is extremely clean in terms of their stories, their characters, and where they want to end. And the whole season could be watched and you could not watch any more of Stranger Things and you would be perfectly fine because they start with an arc and they
Yeah.
end with an arc and it's extremely clean. And
Yeah.
you know where the characters have started and where they've ended and where they could possibly go. But as it stands as one season, it's very, very tight. So it can be done. It's just like they don't know where their priorities are in terms of timing.
They also need to end these episodes better. I think that's the other thing. Give us an idea of what's happening next week. So I want to watch. I'm like, oh shit, that ended on a cliffhanger. What's happening next week? They haven't done that. The endings for the show have been very weak, I will say. Like it doesn't leave me wanting more at the end. I'm just like, okay, all right, that's it. That's how they end it. Okay. It's not like, oh wow, that's how they're gonna end it. They're gonna introduce a new character or say something that's gonna have ramifications for them in the next episode, or someone's gonna come after them, blah blah blah. Whatever it is. I think that's another element that's missing.
Well, Stranger Things does that really well. So if you ever just
Exactly,
watch,
yeah.
have you seen it?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, like Stranger Things season 1, very clean, but it leaves you wanting more at the end of each episode. They do a really good job of setting that up, and I think that element of setup is really missing in this show. But anyway, carry on.
Next one, Franco Pusari says it was very good. Seems like it gets better every episode. I'm now hyped to see how they develop the politics of and the military of the show. That's what I'm most expecting to see, and they seem to be doing it well so far. I also agree with this. I did really like this episode for those exact reasons. I'm glad they're developing the politics and the military aspect of it, and it is getting better each episode, I will say. So, how many episodes? It's going to be 12 episodes, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left.
God, that seems like forever from now.
Yeah, it's a lot of episodes. So I think it is getting better, but I agree. I hope they continue developing this stuff. And it seems like they're kind of experimenting with it a little bit, and they're trying something new with Star Wars, and I respect that, from a creative aspect. So we'll see how it ends. I'm going to be nervous to judge the show as a whole until it's all over with. I don't want to jump to too many conclusions, but we're
True.
obviously just giving our opinions as to what we've seen so far. Last comments just from Nona Gray. I loved it. Great, short and sweet, awesome.
Short, sweet, to the point.
You let us know in the comments, though, guys, what you think of the show so far. Anything else we missed other than the Admiral, what's his name? Tukin?
Yularen.
Yeah, Yularen. Yeah.
Yularen. Big mouthful.
What else did we
of a
maybe
name.
miss? I mean, it seems like there might have been some other details in here. We get the little mouse droid, whatever that thing's called. That was also nice to have.
That's what it's called.
Mouse droid. Okay, great.
Yep. Shout out to the camera angles in this episode. There were some very interesting camera angle work in this episode. I appreciated that.
Production overall, amazing.
Yeah,
I wish we had
production's
this
insane.
more with more Star Wars shows. It's been some of the best we've ever seen. So I'm very happy with that. Pretty good episode. I'm happy with that. I'm looking forward to seeing next week and where this next arc kind of goes. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Anything else you want to add?
Not at the top of my head. I do have a tendency to get done recording these episodes and then being like, oh my God, why didn't I say that?
Yeah. Well, that's the toughness
So-
of just talking off the top of your head.
Yeah, that's the nature of the beast. But
Nature of life.
I mean, that's where we stand on the show so far, guys. Let us know what you think so far or things that you would like to see in the show. So we can do our little like and subscribe spiel.
Yeah, guys, go like and subscribe, please. Click the notification bell so you know when our reaction videos come up. Go watch our reaction videos. If you're not watching us on Spotify, just know that you can. We have video on Spotify. You can find us anywhere else you get your podcast, Apple, Google, whatever. Leave us a review on Apple if you can. Helps us in the rankings. And then we're on other social media too. *_wars_pod on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And we will see you guys next time for episode 8.
And we'll have seen Tales of the Jedi by the next week.
Tales of the Jedi next week too. So lots more Star Wars content to come. We'll see you guys next time on another Star Wars podcast.
See you guys.